Jiho Kim stood in the command center of Orbital Station 7, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. He had been stationed above Earth for 3 years now, protecting his home world from dangers that most people on the surface never thought about. Tonight felt different. Something in the air made his stomach tight with worry. "Commander Kim, we have incoming communications from the diplomatic vessel," said Lieutenant Hyunwoo from his station. "Ambassador Park is returning from the Galactic Council meeting." Jiho turned away from the window and walked to the communication panel. He pressed the button to open the channel. The face of Yoonji Park appeared on the screen. She looked tired, and there was something in her eyes that Jiho had never seen before. Fear. "Ambassador, what happened?" Jiho asked. Yoonji took a deep breath before speaking. "They refused our request, Commander. The Council will not help us against the Valth Empire. They said Earth is too new to galactic society. They said our problems are not their concern." Jiho felt anger rising in his chest. For 6 months, humanity had been asking the Galactic Council for protection. The Valth Empire had been moving their warships closer to human space. Everyone could see what was coming. But the Council, with all their advanced technology and thousands of years of civilization, had chosen to do nothing. "Did you tell them about the Valth fleet movements?" Jiho asked. "I told them everything," Yoonji replied. Her voice cracked slightly. "They called it a minor territorial dispute. The Council representative from the Tethys species actually laughed when I asked for military support. He said humans need to learn their place in the galaxy." Jiho closed his eyes for a moment. His sister Hyejin lived in Seoul with her 2 children. His parents were retired in Busan. Millions of families just like his lived on Earth, unaware that the galaxy's most powerful alliance had just abandoned them. "Get back to Earth safely, Ambassador," Jiho said. "We will do what we can from here." The communication ended. Jiho looked around the command center at his crew. They had all heard the conversation. Young faces stared back at him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. "Double all patrols," Jiho ordered. "I want every sensor working at maximum capacity. If the Valth are coming, I want to know before they reach Earth's orbit." The crew moved to follow his commands. Jiho returned to the viewing window. Somewhere out there in the darkness, the Valth were preparing to attack, and humanity stood alone. 3 weeks passed. The tension grew worse each day. Then on a Tuesday morning at 600 hours, every alarm in Orbital Station 7 started screaming at once. "Contact." "Multiple contacts," Lieutenant Hyunwoo shouted. Valth warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Counting 20, 30, 40 ships. They are entering Earth's orbit. Jiho ran to the tactical display. The screen showed dozens of red markers surrounding the planet. The Valth had brought their entire attack fleet. This was not a warning or a show of force. This was an invasion. "All stations, battle alert," Jiho commanded. "Launch all fighters. Get every weapon system online. Send emergency broadcast to Earth Defense Forces." The orbital station shook as fighter craft launched from the hangar bays. Jiho watched the tactical screen as human ships moved to intercept the Valth fleet. But humanity's forces were too small, too few. The Valth had spent centuries building their military. Humans had been in space for less than 100 years. The first Valth ship fired. A beam of purple energy cut through space and struck Orbital Station 3. The station exploded in a ball of fire. Hundreds of people died in that single moment. Jiho felt his heart freeze. "Return fire," he shouted. "All stations, weapons free." The battle began. Human railguns and missiles launched at the Valth ships. Some hit their targets, damaging enemy vessels. But the Valth shields were too strong. Their weapons were too powerful. One by one, humanity's orbital defenses began to fall. Then the Valth started firing on the planet itself. Jiho watched in horror as energy beams struck Earth's surface. Explosions bloomed across the continents. Cities that had stood for thousands of years vanished in seconds. The screen showed Seoul burning. Hyejin was down there somewhere. His parents. His friends. Everyone he had ever known. "Commander, we are receiving distress calls from all over the planet," Hyunwoo said, his voice breaking. "Tokyo is gone. New York is under attack. Moscow, Beijing, London. They are hitting everything!" Jiho gripped the edge of his command console so hard his knuckles turned white. Around him, crew members were crying. Some were trying to call their families on Earth. The communication channels were filled with screams and pleas for help that no one could answer. "Sir, Orbital Station 4 is requesting permission to evacuate," another officer reported. "Granted," Jiho said quietly. All stations begin evacuation procedures. Get everyone to the emergency ships. Head for Mars colony. What about Earth, sir? Jiho looked at the planet below. Whole continents were covered in fire. The blue and green world he had protected for 3 years was turning red and black. Billions of people were dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Earth is lost, Jiho whispered. The battle continued for 6 more hours. The human defenders fought bravely, but it was hopeless. The Valth destroyed every orbital station, every satellite, every ship that stayed to fight. Jiho ordered his crew to abandon Orbital Station 7 when the shields failed. They escaped in the emergency shuttles just before the station exploded. As Jiho's shuttle flew away from Earth, he looked back at his home world one last time. The planet was covered in smoke and fire. The oceans reflected the flames. 3 billion people had died in a single day. Maybe more. No one knew the exact number yet. The shuttle's communication system crackled to life. A message was broadcasting on all human channels. It was Admiral Minho Choi, commander of the Mars Defense Fleet. All human vessels, this is Admiral Choi. The message began. Earth has fallen. We have lost billions of our people. The Galactic Council watched our planet burn and did nothing. They called us primitive. They said we did not matter. Jiho listened to every word. Around him, the surviving crew members of Orbital Station 7 listened too. We are retreating to the outer colonies, Admiral Choi continued. We will regroup. We will rebuild. And we will remember. The Valth wanted to destroy us. The Council wanted to ignore us. They both wanted to see humanity disappear. But we will not disappear. We will survive. And one day we will return. They wanted to see what humans are capable of when pushed to the edge. Let us show them. Let us show the entire galaxy what happens when you awaken human fury. The message ended. Jiho sat in his seat staring at nothing. His sister was dead. His parents were dead. His home was gone. Everything he had spent his life protecting had been taken away in hours. But Admiral Choi was right. Humanity would survive, and they would remember. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had thought humans were weak. They had thought humans would break and scatter. But humans were not like other species. When humans were hurt, they did not surrender. They got angry. And human anger was something the galaxy had never seen before. Jiho looked at the faces of his crew. He saw the same expression on every face. Not fear, not sadness. Not anymore. Now there was something else. Something cold and hard and burning. Fury. The galaxy would learn what that meant soon enough. Titan was cold. Even inside the heated habitat domes, Salman Lee could feel the chill in her bones. She had lived on Earth for 40 years before the attack. She had watched the cherry blossoms bloom in spring and felt warm rain on her skin. Now she lived on a frozen moon, working 18 hours a day in a secret laboratory that smelled like oil and burned circuits. Hand me the plasma coupling, Salman said to her assistant. The young engineer passed her the device. Salman attached it to the Valth engine core they had salvaged from a destroyed warship. 3 months ago, a human patrol had found the wreckage floating near Jupiter. They had towed it back to Titan for study. Since then, Salman and her team had been taking it apart piece by piece, learning how it worked. The Valth use a triple helix energy matrix, Salman explained to the engineers gathered around her workstation. Our reactors use a simple linear design. That is why their ships are faster and more powerful. But look here. She pointed to a cluster of crystals inside the engine. These crystals regulate the power flow. They are strong but inflexible. If we can overload them, the entire system will collapse. That is their weakness? Asked Minjae, one of the younger engineers. That is one weakness, Salman replied. Every technology has weaknesses. We just have to find them and exploit them. The Valth have been using the same technology for centuries. They are comfortable. Comfortable means predictable. Predictable means vulnerable. Salman had lost her husband and both her children when Earth burned. She had been on a research station near Venus running experiments on solar collection. She had watched the planet die on a screen, unable to do anything. For weeks after, she had not spoken to anyone. She had barely eaten. Then Admiral Choi had visited her. We need you, the Admiral had said. We need your mind. Help us build weapons that can hurt them. Help us make them pay. So Salman had come to Titan. She had thrown herself into work. Every night she fell asleep at her desk. Every morning she woke up and started again. The pain never left, but at least the work gave it purpose. We will integrate their technology with ours, Samin said. We will make something new, something they have never seen before. Across Titan's main settlement in a massive hangar carved into the ice, pilot Tae Young-yoon was training the new fighter corps. 200 young men and women stood in formation, waiting for his instructions. Most of them had lost family on Earth. All of them had volunteered for the most dangerous duty in the human fleet. Flying in space is not like flying in atmosphere, Taeyang told them. There is no up or down, no ground to crash into, but that also means no limits. In space you can move in any direction at any time. The Valth fly like fish in water, smooth and predictable. We are going to fly like sharks, fast, aggressive, deadly. Taeyang walked down the line of pilots, looking each one in the eyes. He had been a fighter pilot on Earth, flying for the Pacific Defense Force. He had watched his entire squadron die fighting the Valth over Tokyo. He had survived only because his ship had been damaged and forced to retreat. Sometimes he wished he had died with them, but then he remembered that his survival meant he could teach others how to fight. The Galactic Council has rules about combat, Taeyang continued. Rules about fair engagement. Rules about warning your enemy before attacking. Rules about not targeting civilian ships. The Valth followed some of those rules. That is why they announced their presence before attacking Earth's orbit. They thought they were being honorable. Taeyang stopped and turned to face the assembled pilots. We are not going to follow those rules. We are going to attack without warning. We are going to use every dirty trick humans have ever invented. We are going to make them afraid to sleep, because when they attacked Earth, they were not honorable. They burned our cities. They killed our families. They destroyed our home. And now we are going to show them what real war looks like. The pilots stood straighter. Their faces were hard with determination. They understood. This was not going to be a war of rules and honor. This was going to be a war of survival and revenge. In another facility on Titan, Dr. Borahan stared at the equations covering the walls of her laboratory. She had been working on a new propulsion system for 8 weeks without rest. Her team was worried about her health, but Bora ignored them. Sleep could wait. Food could wait. Everything could wait until she solved this problem. The quantum field equations do not balance, she muttered to herself. The energy requirements are too high. The ship would tear itself apart. Bora erased a section of calculations and started again. She had 3 doctoral degrees in physics. Before the attack, she had been teaching at Seoul National University, training the next generation of scientists. Her daughter had been studying medicine. Her son had been in elementary school learning to play the violin. Now they were ashes, and Bora was building weapons. What if we do not try to balance the field? Her assistant Kiwon suggested. What if we deliberately create an unstable quantum bubble? Bora stopped writing and turned to look at him. That would be incredibly dangerous, but would it work? Bora thought for a moment. Then she started writing new equations. Faster, faster. The numbers flowed from her mind to the wall. After 10 minutes, she stepped back. It would work, she said quietly. For about 15 seconds, the ship would exist in a state of quantum uncertainty. It could be in multiple locations simultaneously. Then the bubble would collapse and the ship would return to normal space. But during those 15 seconds, no sensor could track it. No weapon could hit it. 15 seconds is enough time to cross a battlefield, Kaiwan said. 15 seconds is enough time to appear right next to an enemy flagship and destroy it before they know you are there, Bora replied. She looked at the equations again. It will kill anyone who uses it if the calculations are wrong. The quantum forces would rip the ship apart. We are already willing to die, Kiwon said. At least this way we can take them with us. Bora nodded slowly. She thought of her children. She thought of the billions who had died. She thought of the Valth commanders who had ordered the attack, probably sleeping peacefully in their beds thinking they had won. Begin construction of a prototype, Bora ordered. We test in 2 weeks. Elsewhere on Titan, the stories of what the Valth had done continued to spread. Every refugee who arrived from Earth brought new tales of horror. Cities burning, families torn apart, children crying for parents who would never answer. The survivors shared their stories, and with each story the anger grew stronger. Captain Junho Park listened to these stories. His ship, the Defiant, was one of the few human vessels that had survived the battle over Earth. They had been damaged but spaceworthy. Now Junho and his crew were assigned to protect refugee convoys traveling between the inner and outer colonies. Captain, we are detecting a Valth patrol ship on an intercept course, his tactical officer reported. Junho looked at the display. One Valth ship against his damaged vessel. The smart choice would be to run. The safe choice would be to protect the refugees and avoid combat. But Junho was tired of running, tired of being afraid, tired of letting the Valth do whatever they wanted. How many refugees are in our convoy? Funyo asked. 347, sir. Junho nodded. He keyed the ship-wide intercom. All hands, battle stations. Engineering, I need everything the reactor can give me. Weapons, charge all railguns. Helm, plot an intercept course. Sir? His first officer asked. Shouldn't we try to outrun them? We have been outrunning them for months, Junho replied. Maybe it is time they started running from us. The Defiant changed course, accelerating toward the Valth patrol ship. The enemy vessel seemed surprised by the aggressive maneuver. They were used to human ships fleeing. They were not prepared for one to attack. Junho waited until they were close. Very close. Then he gave the order. Fire everything. The Defiant's railguns launched magnetic rounds at incredible speed. Missiles followed. The Valth ship's shields absorbed the first impacts, but Junho had aimed for the same spot with every weapon. The shields flickered and failed. The railgun rounds punched through the hull. Atmosphere vented into space. Keep firing, Junho ordered. The Defiant poured everything into the attack. The Valth ship tried to return fire, but the Defiant was too close, moving too fast. Within minutes, the enemy vessel was crippled. Sir, they are attempting to surrender, the communications officer reported. Junho thought about Earth. He thought about the billions who had begged for mercy and received none. He thought about the Galactic Council watching and doing nothing. Finish them, Junho said. The final missile struck the Valth ship's reactor. The explosion lit up the darkness of space. When the light faded, there was nothing left but debris. Junho sat back in his captain's chair. His hands were shaking. He had just killed dozens of enemy crew. He had ignored their surrender. In the old days, that would have made him a war criminal. But these were not the old days. Earth was gone. The rules were gone. Everything was gone except the need to survive and the hunger for revenge. Take us back to the convoy, Junho ordered quietly. As the Defiant returned to escort duty, Junho recorded a message. He sent it to every human ship in the fleet. The message was simple. A video of the Valth ship exploding. Underneath, Junho had written, They wanted war. We will give them war. The human fleet gathered in the darkness beyond Neptune. 150 ships. All that remained of humanity's military power. They were not the biggest fleet in the galaxy. The Valth Empire alone had thousands of warships. But these ships were different now. They had been rebuilt, redesigned, and filled with technology that broke every rule the Galactic Council had established. Admiral Minho Choi stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution. Around him, officers worked at their stations preparing for the attack. No one spoke unnecessarily. Everyone knew what was coming. They were going to strike at the heart of the Valth Empire. They were going to make the enemy feel the same fear and pain that Earth had felt. All ships report ready, Admiral, said Commander Jiho Kim, who now served as Minho's second-in-command. Minho nodded. He had spent 3 months planning this operation. 3 months of preparation, training, and building. Now the time had come. He activated the fleet-wide communication channel. Soldiers of humanity, Minho began. Today we begin our journey home. The Valth thought they could destroy us. They thought we would scatter and hide. They were wrong. We have spent months in the cold and dark, building our strength. Now we will show them what humans are truly capable of. We will show them that when you hurt us, we do not break. We become stronger. Today, the galaxy will learn to fear humanity. The fleet's quantum disruption drives activated. Borahan's invention worked perfectly. In an instant, the entire human fleet vanished from normal space and reappeared deep inside Valth territory. Bypassing every early warning system and defense station, the Valth home system appeared on the screens. 3 planets, dozens of space stations, and 200 Valth warships. The enemy fleet was spread out, confident in their strength, never expecting an attack. Launch all fighters, Minho ordered. Begin the attack. From the human carriers, hundreds of small fighter craft erupted into space. Wing Commander Narration led the first wave. She had been flying combat missions since Earth fell. She had painted a small flame on her fighter for every Valth ship she destroyed. Now her ship was covered in flames. Red Squadron with me, Nari called over the radio. Remember your training. Fast and aggressive. Do not let them organize, the human fighters screamed toward the Valth fleet. The enemy ships began to react, but they were slow, confused. They had never seen ships appear like this, never experienced an attack without warning. The Galactic Council's rules said you had to announce your presence before combat. Humans did not care about those rules anymore. Nari's squadron hit the first Valth destroyer like a swarm of angry insects. They came from multiple directions at once, firing missiles and energy weapons. The Valth ship's defensive systems tried to track them, but human fighters moved differently than any craft the Valth had encountered. They used tactics from Earth's ancient wars, feints, ambushes, suicide runs that turned away at the last second, forcing the enemy to waste ammunition. Target their sensor arrays, Nari commanded. Blind them. The human fighters focused their fire on the defensive stations and communication towers. Within minutes, the Valth fleet was struggling to coordinate. Ships could not talk to each other. Sensors were damaged. Chaos spread through their ranks. Then the human capital ships opened fire. Salmon Lee's weapons worked exactly as designed. The human fleet did not use normal energy weapons that the Valth could defend against. Instead, they used kinetic bombardment. Massive metal rods accelerated to incredible speeds. The Valth shields were designed to stop energy beams, not solid projectiles traveling at relativistic velocities. The rods punched through shields like paper. A Valth battle station exploded. Then another. Then a heavy cruiser broke apart, atmosphere and crew venting into space. The enemy fleet tried to return fire, but the human ships were already moving, using Bora's quantum drives to jump short distances across the battlefield. They appeared, fired, and vanished before the Valth could target them. Enemy flagship is attempting to form a defensive formation, Jiho reported. Do not let them organize, Minho said. All ships concentrate fire on the flagship. The Retribution and 6 other human cruisers focused their weapons on the Valth Emperor's personal dreadnought. The massive ship was 3 times larger than any human vessel, covered in armor and shields. But the human ships did not fight fair. They coordinated their attacks, hitting the same points over and over until the shields failed. Then the kinetic round struck home. The dreadnought's hull cracked. Explosions bloomed along its length. The Valth crew tried desperately to save their ship, but it was too late. The reactor core went critical. The entire dreadnought exploded in a flash of light so bright that sensors across the system were temporarily blinded. On a Valth command station orbiting the second planet, Commander Velcor watched the battle in horror. This could not be happening. The Valth Empire was one of the strongest military powers in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of systems. They had crushed countless enemies. How could these primitive humans be destroying them? Send a message to the human fleet, Velcor ordered. Offer to discuss terms of surrender. The communication officer looked at him in surprise. Sir, we are offering to surrender? Send the message, Velcor shouted. The message went out. For a moment, the human attack slowed. Then a single response came back. It was a video message. The human admiral appeared on the screen. His face was cold, emotionless. You gave Earth no chance to surrender, Admiral Minho said. We offer you the same mercy you showed us, none. The transmission ended. The human attack resumed with even greater fury. Fighters swarmed the space stations. The capital ships systematically destroyed every military target in the system. Within 6 hours, the Valth home defense fleet was completely destroyed. 200 ships reduced to debris and corpses. Sir, the remaining Valth forces are fleeing the system, Jiho reported. Let them run, Minho said. Let them spread the word of what happened here. I want every Valth in the galaxy to know that humanity is coming. Nari Song landed her fighter back on the carrier, exhausted. Her squadron had lost 12 pilots, but they had destroyed over 30 enemy ships. She climbed out of her cockpit and saw the other pilots gathering around the displays showing the battle damage. The Valth home system was in ruins, military stations destroyed, defensive satellites shattered. The enemy fleet scattered or dead. We won, someone whispered. This is just the beginning, Nari replied. There are still Valth occupying Earth. We are not done until they are all gone. Far across the galaxy, in the Great Council chambers, the representatives of a dozen species gathered in emergency session. They had received reports of the human attack on the Valth system. The violence, the disregard for established warfare conventions, the complete destruction of the Valth forces. This is unprecedented, said Council Chair Velnus, a tall being from the Tethys Accord. The humans have violated every principle of civilized warfare. They attacked without declaration, They refused surrender. They used weapons that have been banned for centuries. The Valth attacked Earth without provocation, Ambassador Hagen Ko replied. He represented humanity now, standing before the council that had once ignored his people's pleas for help. Where was the council when billions of humans died? Where were your principles of civilized warfare when Earth burned? The Valth action was regrettable, Velnus said stiffly. But it was an internal matter. The council does not interfere in territorial disputes. Then do not interfere now, Hagen said coldly. You chose neutrality when it was our people dying. You can stay neutral while we defend ourselves. This is not defense, another council member protested. This is aggression, revenge. The humans are acting like barbarians. Hagen looked at the assembled council members. These beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, these civilizations that had grown soft and comfortable behind their laws and treaties. They had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. They had forgotten what it meant to lose everything. You call us barbarians, Hagen said. Perhaps you are right. But we are barbarians who will not allow our people to be slaughtered without consequence. The Valth made a choice when they attacked Earth. Now they must face the results of that choice. And if the Council tries to stop us, you will face the same consequences. Silence filled the chamber. No one in the Galactic Council had ever been threatened so directly. These humans were supposed to be the newcomers, the weak ones who needed guidance. But there was nothing weak about Hagen's words. There was only cold determination. The Council will consider sanctions, Velnus said finally. Consider whatever you wish, Hagen replied. Humanity will do what it must to survive, with or without your approval. Hagen left the chamber. Behind him, the council members began arguing. Some wanted to take military action against humanity. Others urged caution. They all felt something they had not experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. And beneath that, the first stirrings of fear. Back in the Valth home system, the human fleet was preparing to move on. Their next target was the Valth colony worlds, then the military bases, then any Valth ship or station they could find. This was not going to be a short war, but it was going to be a decisive one, Jiho. Kim stood in the observation deck of the Retribution looking at the debris field that had once been the Valth fleet. The Valth Empire collapsed in 43 days. After the destruction of their home fleet, the human forces moved from system to system with ruthless efficiency. Every Valth colony surrendered or was destroyed. Every military base was captured or reduced to rubble. The Valth, who had been so confident when they attacked Earth, now fled before the human fleet like frightened animals. Commander Jiho Kim stood on the surface of Earth for the first time in over a year. The sky was still dark with smoke in some places, but the fires had finally stopped. Human engineers were already working to repair the damage, to clean the air, to bring life back to the poisoned soil. It would take decades, maybe centuries, but Earth would heal. The last Valth occupation force surrendered this morning, reported Lieutenant Hyunwoo, who had survived the battle at Orbital Station 7. They are being held in detention camps until we decide what to do with them. Jiho nodded. He walked through what had once been Seoul. Most of the buildings were gone now, reduced to twisted metal and broken concrete. But here and there, he could see signs of what the city had been. A park where children used to play. A street where vendors had sold food. A hospital where his sister had worked as a doctor. Hyejin was gone. His parents were gone. 3 billion humans were gone. But humanity remained. Broken, angry, and changed forever, but alive. The Valth had tried to destroy them and failed. That meant something. Admiral Choi wants to see you, Hyunwoo said. On the flagship. Jiho took one last look at the ruins of his home city, then returned to the shuttle. As he flew up toward orbit, he could see the human fleet positioned around Earth. Hundreds of ships now. More were being built every day in the shipyards at Mars and Titan. The fleet that had barely survived the Valth attack was now the strongest military force in this region of space. On the Retribution, Admiral Minho was meeting with his senior commanders. They gathered around a holographic display showing the entire sector. The Valth Empire was marked in red, but most of the red had been replaced with blue as human forces captured system after system. The Valth are finished as a military power, Minho said. Their government has collapsed. Their colonies are surrendering. Within a week, we will control all of their former territory. What about the Galactic Council? Asked Captain Junho Park. They have been sending diplomatic messages demanding that we stop our offensive. Let them demand, Minho replied. They did nothing when we needed them. Why should we listen to them now? Because they have military forces, Jiho pointed out. The council species have fleets that outnumber ours 10 to 1. If they decide we are a threat, they could unite against us. Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. Let me show you something. He changed the holographic display. Now it showed ship movements across the entire sector, not just human ships. Ships from every species in the region. They were all moving, all repositioning, all preparing. Our intelligence officer, Mirai Zhang, has been monitoring council communications, Minho explained. They are planning to strike against us. They are calling it a peacekeeping operation. But what they really want is to destroy our fleet before we become too strong. They are scared. Jiho studied the display. He could see council forces gathering at key points. Fleets from the Tethys Accord, the Corvin Union, the Nexian Assembly, all preparing to move against humanity. When will they attack? Jiho asked. Within 2 weeks, Minho replied. They are still arguing about who will lead the operation and how to divide our territory after we are defeated. The council species are used to cooperation, but they are not used to making quick decisions. That gives us time. Time for what? Asked Wing Commander Narration, who had joined the meeting after completing patrol duty. Time for Operation Thunder, Minho said. He changed the display again. This time it showed human fleet positions, but instead of gathering in one location, the ships were spread out across dozens of systems. Each council species home system was marked with a human ship position. We are going to visit them, Minho explained. Every council member species, every home world. We will arrive unannounced just like we did in Valth space. We will not attack. We will not threaten. We will simply be there, and they will understand that we can reach them anytime we choose. That is incredibly risky, Jiho said. If they interpret it as an attack, then they will learn what happens when you attack humanity, Minho replied. But they are not stupid. They will understand the message. We can strike at their hearts just as easily as they can strike at ours. Mutual destruction. The old human doctrine of deterrence. You are gambling with the entire human species, Junho said. We already gambled everything when we decided to fight the Valth instead of running, Minho replied. We won that gamble. We will win this one too. The operation began 3 days later. Human ships appeared simultaneously in 32 different systems. In each one, they broadcast the same message. It was recorded by Dr. Seo Jun Kwan, a xenopsychologist who understood alien minds better than anyone else in the human fleet. To the people of the Galactic Council, Seo Jun's message began. We are humanity. 6 months ago, you watched our homeworld burn. You called it a minor territorial dispute. You refused to help us. You thought we would disappear. You were wrong. The message played on every communication channel in every system. Council members watched in shock as human warships sat in orbit above their planets. We do not come to conquer you, Seojin continued. We do not come to threaten you. We come to remind you that the galaxy has changed. Humanity will no longer be ignored. We will no longer accept your decisions about our fate. We will defend ourselves against anyone who threatens us, and we have proven that we have the ability to do so. We are willing to live in peace with you, but we will live in peace as equals, not as your subordinates. If you attack us, we will respond with everything we have, and you now know that our reach extends to your homeworlds. This is not a threat. This is a fact. We hope you choose peace, but the choice is yours. The message ended. For a moment, there was silence across 32 different worlds. Then the council members began to panic. On the Tethys homeworld, Council Chair Velnus watched the human warship in orbit. It was not a large ship, not compared to the massive Tethys defense fleet, but it represented something terrifying. These humans had technology that allowed them to appear anywhere without warning. They had weapons that could destroy fleets, and they had proven that they were willing to use them. What do we do? Asked one of the Tethys military commanders. Velnus thought carefully. The Tethys species had ruled the council for 3,000 years. They had maintained peace through diplomacy and carefully controlled force. They had never faced an enemy like humanity, an enemy that did not respect their traditions, an enemy that fought without rules, an enemy that could not be intimidated or controlled. We negotiate, Velnus said finally. Similar conversations were happening on every council world. The human ships did not move. They did not fire. They simply waited. And their presence was more powerful than any weapon. 3 days later, the Galactic Council sent an official communication to humanity. They were inviting Ambassador Hagen Co. to join them for emergency talks. They were offering humanity a seat on the council. Full membership. Equal voice, it is a trap, said Mirai Jiang when she read the message. They want to get us into the council so they can control us through politics instead of military force. Probably, Hagen agreed. But it is also an opportunity. If we are on the council, we can influence their decisions. We can protect humanity's interests, and we can prevent them from uniting against us. Do you trust them? Shiho asked. No, Hagen said honestly, but I do not need to trust them. I just need them to fear us enough to leave us alone. And right now they are very afraid. Hagen traveled to the council chambers. This time when he entered, every representative stood. It was a sign of respect, something they had never done for humanity before. Hagen walked to the center of the chamber and looked at the faces staring at him. Some showed fear. Some showed respect. Some showed barely hidden anger. The council welcomes humanity, Velna said formally. We offer you full membership in our alliance. We hope that together we can build a peaceful future for all species in the galaxy. Hagen smiled slightly. 6 months ago I stood in this chamber and begged for your help. You laughed at me. You called my people primitive. You said our problems were not your concern. Now you offer us friendship. Why? The chamber was silent. Everyone knew why. They had seen human military power. They had experienced human fury. They understood that humanity was not going to disappear quietly. Because we recognize our mistake, Velna said carefully. We should have helped Earth. We failed in our duty to protect innocent lives. We hope that humanity can forgive our error and join us in building a better galaxy. Pretty words, Hagen said, but words mean nothing. Earth proved that. You promised to maintain peace. You promised to protect the weak. You failed. So understand this. Humanity will join your council. We will participate in your discussions. We will follow your laws when it suits us, but we will never again depend on you for our protection. We will never again trust your promises, and if you ever threaten humanity again. General Kyungmin Ryu walked through the military hospital on Mars. The beds were full of soldiers who had fought in the war against the Valth. Some had physical injuries. Missing limbs, burn scars, damaged organs. Those would heal, or at least the doctors could help them heal. But many soldiers had injuries that no doctor could fix. Injuries to the mind and spirit. A young pilot sat by a window staring at nothing. His name was Taejin. He had flown 40 combat missions. He had destroyed 12 enemy ships. He had watched 3 of his squadron members die. Now the war was over, but Taejin could not stop fighting. In his dreams, he was still in combat. Still dodging enemy fire? Still watching his friends explode. How are you today? Kyungmin asked, sitting beside him. Taejin did not answer. He just kept staring. Kyungmin understood. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had seen war before in small conflicts on Earth. But nothing like the Valth War. Nothing that had killed so many, hurt so many, changed so many. The soldiers who had fought were heroes, but they were also damaged. And now that the fighting was done, they did not know what to do with themselves. The war is over, Kyungmin said gently. You can rest now. The war is never over, Taejin whispered. It is still there, in my head. Every night, Kyungmin nodded. He left Taejin by the window and continued his rounds. Room after room of soldiers who had given everything for humanity, who had sacrificed their health, their sanity, their futures. Now humanity was safe, but these soldiers were not. They had won the war, but the war had also won something from them. Counselor Jiwon Nam met Kyungmin outside the hospital. She ran the largest psychological support program for veterans. She had been a therapist on Earth before the attack. Now she spent every day trying to help warriors become civilians again. How many new cases this week? Kyungmin asked. 73, Jiwon replied. And those are just the ones who admitted they need help. I estimate there are thousands more suffering in silence. What can we do? Keep working. Keep offering support. Keep reminding them that they are not alone. Jiwon looked tired. She had been working 18 hours a day for months. But General, we need to acknowledge something. An entire generation of humans has known nothing but war. They do not know how to live in peace. Some of them do not even want peace. They only understand fighting. Kyungmin knew she was right. That was the cost of their victory. Humanity had survived, but humanity had also changed. They were harder now, more violent, more willing to hurt others to protect themselves. The galaxy feared them, and perhaps the galaxy was right to fear. On Earth, the reconstruction continued. Cities were being rebuilt. Forests were being replanted. The oceans were being cleaned. It was slow work, but humans were patient. They had learned patience during the long months preparing for war. Jiho Kim returned to Seoul. The city was still mostly ruins, but construction crews were working everywhere. New buildings were rising from the ashes of the old ones. Engineers had designed them to be stronger than before, more resistant to attack. Every new structure on Earth was built with defense in mind. Humanity would never again be caught unprepared. He found the spot where his sister's apartment had stood. Nothing remained except a patch of scorched ground. But someone had planted flowers there, small white flowers that somehow survived in the poisoned soil. Jiho knelt beside them. "We won, Heejin," he said quietly. "The Valth are gone. Earth is ours again, but you are still gone. All those billions are still gone, and I do not know if it was worth it." No answer came, just the wind blowing through the ruins and the sound of construction in the distance. Far from Earth, Ambassador Heijin Ko sat in his office on the council station. As humanity's representative, he attended every council meeting now. He listened to debates about trade regulations and territorial disputes. He watched council members argue over laws and procedures that seemed meaningless compared to what humanity had endured. But Heijin was not there to make friends. He was there to protect humanity's interests. And lately, those interests had become complicated. A message arrived from Earth. It was marked urgent. Heijin opened it and read carefully. Then he closed his eyes and sighed. The message was from Admiral Minho. The Skorth species, a reptilian race that had been conquered by one of the council member species, had sent a secret communication to humanity. They were asking for help, asking for weapons, asking for military training. They wanted to rebel against their oppressors, and they had seen what humanity could do. This was the choice Heijin had feared. Humanity could ignore the request and focus on rebuilding, or they could help the Skorth, which would mean more war, more conflict, more enemies. But if they ignored the Skorth, they would become what they hated, bystanders who watched others suffer. Heijin traveled back to Earth for an emergency meeting of the provisional government. All of humanity's leaders gathered in the temporary capital on Mars. Admiral Minho presented the Skorth request. Then the debate began. "We should help them," said Narisong. "We know what it feels like to be ignored when you need help. We cannot do the same thing to others. We barely survived our own war," argued Captain Junho Park. "Our fleet is strong, but it is not infinite. If we fight every oppressed species battles, we will destroy ourselves." "But if we do nothing, what did we fight for?" asked Soman Lee. "We fought for justice, for the principle that the strong should not prey on the weak. If we abandon that now, we are no better than the Valth." The argument continued for hours. Finally, Jiho Kim spoke. He had been quiet until now, listening to everyone. But now he had something to say. "I think we are asking the wrong question," Jiho said. "We should not ask if we help them. We should ask how we help them. The Skorth are not asking us to fight their war. They are asking us to give them the tools to fight it themselves." "That is different," Minho nodded slowly. "You are suggesting we share our technology but not our soldiers?" "Exactly," Jiho replied. "We can teach them what we learned. We can give them weapons and tactics, but they must do the fighting. Every species must earn their own freedom. We can help, but we cannot do it for them." The debate shifted. This was something they could agree on. Humanity would not become the galaxy's army, but they would be the galaxy's teacher. They would share knowledge with those who wanted to fight for their freedom. But each species would have to prove they wanted it enough to risk everything. The decision was made. Heijin returned to the council station and delivered humanity's position. The council would not like it. They wanted to maintain the current order, but humanity was no longer asking permission. "The Skorth have the right to self-determination," Heijin announced in the council chambers. "Humanity will provide them with technology and training. We will not fight their war for them, but we will help them fight for themselves. If the council has a problem with this, remember that we extended the same courtesy to you when we could have simply conquered you." Velnus stood. You are destabilizing the galaxy. You are encouraging rebellion and chaos. No, Hagen replied. We are encouraging freedom. You have maintained order by keeping some species enslaved. That order was built on injustice. We are simply helping to correct it. If that destabilizes your power, perhaps your power deserved to be destabilized. The council erupted in arguments. Some supported humanity's position. Others opposed it. But no one could stop it. Humanity had made their choice, and they had the military power to enforce it. Over the following months, human advisors traveled to Scorth space. They taught the reptilian people how to build better weapons, how to fight without rules, how to strike at the enemy's weaknesses. The Scorth learned quickly. They had spent generations under oppression. They were hungry for freedom. When the Scorth rebellion began, it was swift and brutal. Within weeks, they had liberated 3 of their colony worlds. The species that had conquered them tried to stop the rebellion, but they could not. The Scorth fought with human tactics and human determination, and behind them, human warships waited, making it clear that if the oppressors tried to exterminate the Scorth, humanity would intervene. Other oppressed species watched, and learned, and began to hope. On Earth, Jiho stood in the rebuilt memorial park where his sister's apartment had been. The park was beautiful now. Trees had been planted. Gardens had been created. A monument stood in the center, listing the names of the 3 billion who had died. It would take days to read all the names, but people came anyway. They came to remember, to mourn, to ensure that those who died would never be forgotten. Do you think we did the right thing? Narisong asked. She had come to visit the memorial after completing a training mission with Scorth pilots. I do not know, Jiho admitted. We survived. We protected ourselves, but we also became something different, something harder, something the galaxy fears. Is that good or bad? I cannot say. My flight instructor on Earth used to tell me that the best pilots were not the ones who never felt fear, Nari said. They were the ones who felt fear but flew anyway. Maybe it is the same for civilizations. The best ones are not the ones who never make mistakes. They are the ones who face their fears and try to do better. Jiho thought about that. Humanity had made many mistakes. They had been too trusting before the Valth attack, too willing to believe that others would help them.